Welcome back to Demolition Worker. Today, we face a truly heartbreaking task, dismantling the magnificent Boeing 7478. This is the final and most modern version of the legendary Queen of the Skies, now resting quietly before total destruction. Despite being incredibly new, this beautiful aircraft is forced into early retirement due to complex technical faults and high operating costs. It is a very sad day for aviation lovers worldwide as we prepare to tear apart this marvel of modern engineering. Our mission today is a massive clash between the most advanced demolition technology and the absolute peak of modern aerospace structure. Before we bring out the heavy crushers, we must carefully execute a highly strategic salvage operation to recover valuable working parts. Dismantling a modern airplane like this is exactly like taking apart an incredibly expensive luxury watch to carefully extract tiny components. Every single intact instrument inside the cockpit holds immense value and can be resold to keep other commercial fleets flying safely. Our specialized technicians step inside the silent cabin to carefully unscrew and disconnect the delicate navigation screens and advanced flight computers. These highly sophisticated electronic brains are carefully wrapped in protective foam and immediately transported to secure climate-controlled aviation storage facilities. Next, we move to the massive wings where the incredibly powerful jet engines hang silently waiting for their final, safe removal. Each engine is worth millions of dollars, so our crew uses specialized hydraulic lifts to slowly detach them from the wings. The precision required here is absolutely incredible, because one tiny mistake could easily damage the highly sensitive turbine blades inside them. Once safely lowered onto specialized transport cradles, these magnificent power plants will find new life, powering other cargo planes across the globe. With the engines entirely gone, the massive aircraft suddenly looks incredibly vulnerable, like a giant bird that has lost its wings. Now our interior crew begins the tedious process of stripping out hundreds of passenger seats and removing all the overhead bins. This once luxurious cabin that carried thousands of happy travelers is quickly reduced to a dark and completely empty metal tunnel. Miles of complex copper wiring and fiber optic cables are carefully pulled from the walls to be recycled for their valuable materials. We also remove the massive landing gear assemblies, which are incredibly heavy and require heavy-duty cranes to lift them safely. These strong titanium and steel struts are carefully inspected and cleaned before being shipped to maintenance facilities for future commercial use. The salvage phase is finally complete, and the stripped fuselage now stands completely bare, waiting for the aggressive heavy demolition phase. I fire up our massive custom-built excavator, which is specially equipped with a brutally powerful 360-degree shear. The heavy steel tracks grind loudly against the concrete tarmac as I slowly maneuver the giant machine toward the towering aircraft. My first primary target is the iconic towering tail section, which stands incredibly high above the ground, challenging our massive machine. I carefully raise the massive mechanical arm, extending the heavy steel jaws high into the sky to grip the vertical stabilizer. The hydraulic pressure builds up rapidly as the razor-sharp steel teeth finally bite down hard into the advanced aerospace aluminum. However, these extremely new composite alloys are incredibly tough and highly flexible, forcing our cutting blades to work at maximum capacity. The machine shakes violently as the incredibly resilient metal refuses to snap easily, fighting back against the immense crushing hydraulic pressure. I have to rotate the shear attachment slightly to find a weaker joint where the structural frames connect to the fuselage. With a deafening crack, the top half of the towering tail finally breaks free and crashes heavily onto the concrete below. Dust billows into the air as the massive piece of aerospace history hits the ground, shattering into dozens of jagged fragments. I lower the arm and use the heavy steel jaws to crush the fallen tail section into much smaller, manageable pieces. These smaller chunks of high-grade aluminum will be quickly loaded into leading dump trucks and sent to the recycling plant. Now I turn the massive excavator toward the main fuselage, aiming the deadly hydraulic shears right at the iconic upper deck. The Boeing 747 is famous for this beautiful hump, but today my job is to completely tear it apart. The heavy jaws clamp down aggressively on the roof, piercing straight through the thin outer skin and crushing the structural ribs. A loud screeching noise echoes across the entire airfield as the incredibly strong metal skeleton is violently ripped open by force. I twist the mechanical wrist and tear away a massive section of the roof, exposing the empty passenger cabin hidden inside. The sunlight pours directly into the dark interior, revealing the exposed structural beams and completely bare floorboards of the upper deck. I continue to bite huge chunks out of the fuselage, slowly working my way down from the roof to the windows. The sheer destructive power of this modern excavator is truly mesmerizing as it effortlessly chews through the highly advanced airplane structure. Every time the heavy steel blades close, they cleanly slice through thick aluminum panels like a hot knife cutting through butter. Debris constantly rains down onto the tarmac, creating a massive pile of twisted metal and shattered composite materials beneath the plane. A specialized water truck sprays a heavy mist over the entire demolition zone to keep the toxic fiberglass dust from spreading. The water droplets mix with the falling debris, creating a thick gray sludge that covers the ground around the dying aircraft. I maneuver the machine closer to the front, aiming for the most recognizable part of the plane, which is the cockpit. This is always the most emotional part of the job because the cockpit represents the true brain and soul of aviation. I carefully position the heavy jaws right above the cockpit windows, taking one last moment to appreciate its beautiful aerodynamic design. Then I push the hydraulic levers forward, driving the sharp steel teeth directly through the incredibly thick, reinforced glass windshield. The shatterproof glass cracks loudly into a million tiny spiderweb pieces, but stubbornly holds together thanks to its advanced laminated layers. I apply even more pressure, and the entire front nose section suddenly buckles inward, collapsing under the immense weight and force. The iconic face of the Queen of the Skies is now completely unrecognizable, reduced to a tragic pile of crushed metal. I tear away the remaining sections of the nose, revealing the complex radar equipment housing that was previously emptied during salvage. Now I shift my focus to the massive wings, which contain the incredibly strong main spar that supports the entire aircraft. Cutting through the main wing spar is the ultimate test of strength for our hydraulic shear because it is incredibly thick. I bite down hard on the root of the right wing, where it heavily attaches to the central fuselage body structure. The excavator engine roars loudly as the hydraulic pumps deliver maximum pressure to the cutting blades struggling against the solid titanium. Sparks fly wildly into the air as the hardened steel teeth violently grind against the incredibly tough aerospace-grade titanium alloy. For a few intense seconds, the machine stalls, but then a massive explosive bang signals that the thick spar has snapped. The entire right wing drops dramatically to the ground, sending some massive shockwave through the concrete and shaking the heavy excavator. I repeat the exact same brutal process on the left wing, carefully positioning the jaws to slice through the central joint. Another deafening crack echoes across the yard as the left wing completely detaches and violently crashes down into the growing debris. With both wings entirely removed, the central fuselage looks like a giant hollow metallic cigar resting helplessly on the dirty tarmac. The demolition is now moving incredibly fast as I begin to aggressively chop the remaining tube into much smaller transportable sections. The hydraulic shear bites cleanly through the circular frames, snapping the heavy structural rings that once kept the pressurized cabin safe. Massive sections of the passenger windows are ripped away and thrown onto the scrap pile, shattering the remaining acrylic glass panes. I used the heavy flat side of the shear to brutally smash down the remaining floorboards, crushing the cargo hold below. The intricate honeycomb composite materials inside the floor panels splinter and crack loudly under the immense crushing weight of the machine. As I work my way toward the rear of the plane, the once magnificent aircraft is slowly disappearing from the yard. A secondary, smaller excavator moves in to help sort the massive mountain of twisted metal debris that I have left behind. The sorting process is incredibly important because different types of aerospace alloys must be carefully separated for maximum commercial recycling value. High-grade titanium pieces are placed in one specific bin, while the lighter aluminum panels are aggressively compacted into solid blocks. Every single pound of this destroyed airplane will be completely melted down and eventually reshaped into brand new, useful consumer products. It is quite poetic to think that this magnificent flying machine might one day become completely ordinary soda cans or bicycles. I continue to relentlessly attack the rear fuselage, tearing away the last remaining sections of the passenger cabin and cargo doors. The heavy steel jaws cleanly slice through the thick rear bulkhead, which is the strongest pressure seal in the entire airplane. The final few meters of the aircraft are quickly crushed into flat metal pancakes, easily scooped up by the secondary machine. After several exhausting hours of non-stop heavy demolition, the massive Boeing 7478 has been completely erased from existence. The vast concrete tarmac that once held the majestic Queen of the Skies is now just covered in dust and debris. Our ground crew moves in with heavy industrial sweepers to carefully clean up the thousands of sharp metal fragments left behind. Safety is always our highest priority, so we must ensure absolutely no dangerous debris remains on the active airport demolition apron. I slowly shut down the massive excavator engine, feeling a deep sense of accomplishment mixed with a slight hint of sadness. We have successfully completed a highly dangerous and incredibly complex demolition job without a single safety incident or unexpected mechanical failure. However, destroying such a beautiful and technologically advanced machine always leaves a strange, heavy feeling in the hearts of our crew. The aviation industry is incredibly ruthless, and even the most modern masterpieces can quickly become entirely obsolete due to simple economics. But through this careful demolition and recycling process, we ensure that the valuable materials will continue to serve humanity in future. The incredibly high-value parts we successfully salvage today will actively help keep many other commercial airplanes flying safely for years. It is a perfect circle of industrial life where the tragic end of one machine provides vital life for many others. I step out of the heavy machine cabin and take one last look at the massive piles of sorted aerospace scrap. The setting sun casts a beautiful golden glow over the twisted metal, creating a surprisingly peaceful and deeply artistic industrial scene. Tomorrow we will load all these heavy metal blocks onto massive freight trains, heading directly toward the high-temperature smelting furnaces. But for tonight, our incredibly hard-working demolition crews who can finally rest and proudly celebrate another perfectly executed heavy industrial operation. We proved once again that human engineering can both build the most incredible flying machines and safely tear them completely apart. The legacy of this specific Boeing will live on through the recycled materials and the perfectly salvaged avionics we carefully rescued. Thank you for joining us on this incredibly emotional and highly destructive mechanical journey through the absolute peak of modern aviation. This has been Demolition Worker, bringing you the ultimate destruction of the Queen of the Skies. So please subscribe and goodbye.